Welcome to the Atheist Witch Podcast, a bi-weekly podcast for witches or any curious minds to learn more about a non-theistic approach to witchcraft. Hello and welcome to the bonus Samhain episode of the Atheist Witch Podcast. I'm your host and I'm creating these bonus episodes ahead of all 8 Sabbats this year to talk about the history and traditions of each one and describe how I celebrate them as an atheist witch. I'm recording this bonus series because I think a lot of non-theistic practitioners want to observe and celebrate the turning of the wheel and might appreciate some ideas for how to do that without invoking a deity or other supernatural entities. Samhain is one of the 4 Celtic quarter days, and traditionally marks the point halfway between the autumnal equinox of Mabon and the winter solstice of Yule. It's typically celebrated from sundown on October 31st to sundown on November 1st. And for our friends in the southern hemisphere, this date marks Beltane, which is the opposite point on the wheel of the year, celebrating the vibrant peak of spring and fertility. If you missed it, I did an episode on Beltane earlier this year. The word Samhain is an ancient Celtic word meaning summer's end. It marks the end of the harvest season, and it's a popular belief that the ancient Celts considered it their new year, though this does remain a subject of scholarly debate. Either way, Samhain's position on the wheel marks the cessation of the annual cycle and makes it a great time to mark the turning of the season, or the year if you prefer. Historically, Samhain was one of the most important festivals on the Celtic calendar, marking a period of liminality where the normal order of the universe was briefly suspended. Communities would gather to light huge communal bonfires, often dousing all other fires in the community and then relighting their hearths from the main bonfire as a way to ritually bond and cleanse the community for the dark half of the year. People would wear costumes made of animal heads and skins and masks, not for fun, but as a protective measure to disguise themselves from or ward off any wandering, potentially malevolent spirits. In some traditions, food and drink were left outside of the home to appease these spirits, a practice believed to be an early root of modern trick-or-treating. This ancient Celtic festival is the direct pagan root of what we now celebrate as Halloween. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III moved the date of All Saints' Day, or All Hallows' Day, to November 1st, further cementing the connection to honoring the dead and creating All Hallows' Eve, or Halloween. This is one of many examples where the placement of a major Christian feast on this date was used as a tactic to co-opt or supplant existing pagan festivals. In traditional lore, Samhain is the time when the veil between worlds is the thinnest. From my perspective as an atheist witch, I see this not for literal spirits to cross, but as a time for our conscious and subconscious minds to touch. It's a period for deep introspection and a psychological acknowledgement of the cycles of life and death. Common themes for Samhain center around introspection and release, letting go of what no longer serves you and embracing the quietude of the upcoming winter. It involves honoring those who came before us, practicing ancestor work and focusing on the biological and intellectual lineage and stories we carry forward, rather than literal spirits. If you missed episode 20 of the podcast on ancestors, go check that out. Divination is also a common theme, tapping into our intuition and subconscious knowledge to gain clarity and insight for the dark season, and acknowledging the impermanence of all things and the constant flow of transformation as the cycle continues. Traditional correspondences for Samhain include colors of black, deep purple, orange, brown, and gray. Plants associated with Samhain include mums, gourds, pumpkins, apples, rosemary, mugwort, oak, and yew. Crystals of obsidian, smoky quartz, and black tourmaline. And the elements most closely associated with Samhain are earth for grounding and introspection, and water for emotional depth and release. As an atheist witch, my celebration of Samhain is centered on introspection, gratitude, and an appreciation for the cycles of the earth and my own life. Like many witches, I consider Samhain one of my favorite Sabbats, offering a natural and potent time for self-reflection. Food, however, is also a central part of my Samhain celebration, and my mealtime rituals often focus on gratitude. I often set an extra place at my dinner table for my ancestors or loved ones who have passed, and this would be a quiet, contemplative meal where I reflect on their lives and their influence on me. I'll incorporate foods corresponding to the harvest and the season, such as a harvest salad, roasted root vegetables, baked apples, or sometimes even a braided apple or herb bread. This is one of the best times of the year for divination due to the natural pull towards subconscious introspection. I'll often do a Wheel of the Year spread, or a 3-card spread focusing on past lessons, current blocks, and the path forward. I also journal about the themes that I want to explore for the winter. I acknowledge the concept of the thinning veil, but I see it through the lens of neuroscience. The reduction in sunlight and cultural cues naturally shift our brains toward introspection and memory retrieval. This psychological shift of the mind turning inward is the real thinning of the veil. It's a potent time for our subconscious to communicate with our conscious mind, which is the most powerful magic that there is. A simple ritual that I really love is creating a protection pumpkin. After carving a jack-o'-lantern, I'll place a protective sigil inside and light a white candle. This will welcome my ancestors' positive influence and ward off any negative influence. Sometimes I'll perform a small release ritual, involving writing down old habits or mental blocks I want to shed before safely burning that paper. The symbolic act of burning helps to psychologically shed the old skin and embrace a clean slate for the dark half of the year. From a cognitive psychology standpoint, the physical act of writing, tearing, and burning helps the brain categorize an issue as resolved or completed, creating a powerful psychological break that supports real-world behavioral change. My Samhain altar features many of the correspondences that I've listed, usually a simple black cloth, candles in seasonal colors, and probably some symbols like pumpkins, gourds, or some fallen leaves. I also use a dedicated ancestor altar space to display photographs of my family and friends who have passed, perhaps leaving out a small libation or an offering, and I'll use that space to simply sit in quiet memory. I'd like to offer a very brief, atheist-friendly guided meditation that you can use this Samhain to connect with your own powerful ancestor lineage. Find a quiet, comfortable spot, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Visualize yourself standing in a quiet, dark forest at dusk. You are not afraid. You are simply at peace in the darkness. Now you can feel the earth beneath your feet, and you begin to visualize a single, strong root extending from your body down into the earth. And as that root travels down, know that you are connecting to the millions of people who preceded you. Not spirits, but the actual biological record and inherited wisdom that made you possible. Feel a strong, quiet thread of knowledge, resilience, and strength running from that deep, deep root all the way up your spine and into your core. This is your lineage. This is who you are. Take a deep breath and carry that strength with you as you open your eyes. As always, I encourage any and every practitioner to find ways to make Samhain your own. This holiday offers so many profound psychological and grounding themes. You could dedicate an hour to a quiet journaling session. What are you ready to release before the winter forces you inward? What new seeds of self-improvement do you want to plant to incubate through the darkest part of the year before emerging in spring? You could try honoring your lineage by cooking a meal inspired by your own family's heritage, or choose a day to read and reflect on a story about a person from your biological or intellectual past who inspires you. And find your peace in the darkness. Use the increasing darkness not as a time for fear, but for rest and deep healing. Perhaps you could try a fire meditation with a simple candle to embrace the darkness and prepare for the return of the sun at Yule. This concludes today's bonus episode on Samhain. I wish you all a most reflective and peaceful Samhain this year, however you choose to celebrate. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you soon.